Mayor, we are live on YouTube and ready to begin the meeting when you'd like.
Thank you. Would like to call to order the Branson Board of Aldermen meeting. Begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, be led by me, and there'll be a flag on your screen. And I ask you to be in place and just place your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The preamble of the Missouri Constitution. We, the people of Missouri, with profound reverence for the supreme ruler of the universe and grateful for his goodness, do establish this Constitution for the better government of the state. I believe we have an invocation to be led by Jamie Roush.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, I come before you today with a thankful heart. I'm very thankful for the city. I'm thankful for your grace that you gave so freely to us all. I thank you for the values that this city holds and for the hearts of the people. I love you, Lord. I thank you for forgiveness, and I ask you tonight that you would give us wisdom and knowledge and understanding, and that you would guide the decisions that are made tonight for the goodness of our city, to better our city according to your will. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Jamie. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
King,
Present.
Whitus,
Here.
Simmons,
Here.
Akers,
Here?
Skanes,
Here.
Milton,
Here.
C.
You're still muted, Jeff.
Here.
Thank you. Honor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. I want to welcome those who are hooking into our meeting through virtual meeting. This is a different way for us, obviously, to do business, and not an easy way, but we hope that you'll be able to hear and understand. So I welcome you to our meeting tonight. I would like to ask the city clerk to read the introduction for this virtual meeting. Madam Clerk.
This meeting is being held virtually due to the COVID-19 virus and the recommendation of the Centers for Disease Control, along with the state and city emergency proclamations that are in effect. We will review our procedures for conducting tonight's meeting. Participants in this meeting who will be joining the meeting virtually include members of the Board of Aldermen and city staff. The microphones of all board members and city staff members participating in the meeting should be muted at all times so as not to impede the ability of meeting participants and observers to hear the proceedings. Members of the board or staff who wish to speak will be recognized by the mayor. Members of the public were invited to speak by signing up prior to tonight's meeting by using a link to a speaker sign-up form for virtual meetings. Those who have signed up will be able to speak on the items they've requested to speak on. Please note public comments will be limited to 5 minutes and discussion on all other agenda items will be 3 minutes, unless additional time is allowed by the mayor. The speaker will be notified when there's 30 seconds remaining of their allotted speaking time. Mayor, please note we have one person signed up to speak during public comment. The voting procedure for tonight's meeting will be by a roll call vote on every action item before the board. The city clerk will call the name of each board member for their vote and will announce the results. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This time there's special recognition. I'd ask Alderman Skanes to please present a special recognition to our fire department employees.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a prepared statement here. It is my privilege to announce that the City of Branson Service for Excellent Employee of the Month Award for January 2021 is going to Branson Fire Rescue Station 1 HF Captain Jason Bruck, Engineer Jason Gagnapin, Firefighter Brian Hutchins, and Firefighter Josh Burton This award is to recognize employees who have gone above and beyond and whose performance exemplifies the city of Branson values. This team showed great compassion for a Branson resident in a non-emergency issue. After responding, these men took the time to visit with the woman and assess her overall situation. The crew took the initiative to call a chaplain to visit with this woman and went above and beyond to make her as comfortable as possible. This included disassembling and reassembling a hospital bed that was not in good condition and a good location. They took the time to rearrange furniture and to make sure the woman was situated appropriately to make her comfortable as possible at this point in her life. This act of service is well beyond their job description. On behalf of the mayor, board of aldermen, city administrator, and city staff, it is my honor to announce this team as the City of Branson's January 2021 Service and Excellent Employees of the Month. Congratulations. Thank you for what you do and keep up the good work. It's remarkable.
Alderman Skanes, and congratulations. Jason Gagnapane, I think I knew your grandpa and may have worked with him at one time. So good to see your name there. This is the public comment section of the Board of Aldermen meeting. At this time, the board will hear the citizens who have signed up to speak virtually using the speaker sign-up form of the virtual meeting. I believe tonight we have just one speaker only in this one area. So at this time, Madam Clerk, if you would arrange to have the speaker be available to talk to us.
Your Honor, the speaker tonight is Bo D. Jagger, and he's speaking on COVID. And I believe that.
Oh, are you on the line?
Chad will bring him in. Thank you.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
should be
muted.
he should be able to speak now if you unmute yourself. Well, through the app, I'm asking you to unmute if you can see that and tap unmute, or unmute your phone if you're calling it. Well, you are calling in. So unmute your phone and we should be able to hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Perfect. There you go.
Okay.
And you have
Am I
5 minutes, if that's correct, Mary, your pleasure.
That's correct.
all right? Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for letting me speak at the Board of Aldermen meeting tonight. I want to touch on some points about our mask mandate that we currently have going on. I would like some feedback and some answers. My first topic, I want to ask directly to the mayor of, we have virtual meetings going on right now due to the safety, but you have an order, you have to wear a mask into all City Hall businesses, no exceptions. So how I perceive that is you're saying that masks don't work and that's why you're going virtual. Now, I don't understand how you can't have in-person meetings if you have a no exceptions clause to come into City Halls. Can I get any feedback of why it's virtual when you have this in place?
We're here to listen to you.
Okay, then no answer. It just doesn't make any sense that you would all be safe if your masks are working properly, and that's what you and other officials, head of caucuses have all stated, is that masks work, so you should not be needing a virtual meeting this evening. I also bring that up as you have it for all buildings, and it's for all of your city buildings, you have a no exception. Well, if you go into a recplex, is a medical exception card the same type of exception as exercising, eating, etc. If you go into the recplex, you can't get in without a mask, but yet you can exercise. Aren't those the exact same type of exceptions in our mandate clause? So you're contradicting when you have a sign out front saying you can't enter without a mask, but yet you can exercise without a mask. That goes in the same point as if you're going to a restaurant, and I know all of you have gone, Mayor has been to several, I've heard, And if you're sitting there and you sit down at a table and you remove your mask at all, I bet you don't put your mask on every time the server comes to your table. So by your standards, you have all infected the server that's come to your table by you not putting on your mask. Now, I don't believe that's how this virus is being spread. By your words and how your actions have said, that's how this plays out. And I think we need to remove this mask mandate, as the actions of what's transpired just do not make sense and they don't flow together. I also want to bring up the COVID deaths that we've had. Before the mask mandate was applied, I think we were around 20-some COVID deaths, and I don't know the exact percentage, but it was far over 50% were all from nursing homes. So unless rules have changed, how did any of those people inside the nursing homes get COVID when nobody from the general public that doesn't work there is allowed to go into nursing homes? So when we're terrified of people dying from COVID and people are dying mostly from nursing homes when no public can go in there, why are the healthy individuals outside of nursing homes having to wear a mask when we're not the highest risk and we're not allowed to go visit the high risk? As of, I believe, last week, we were up to 68. From November to January, there was 13 more, and I'm not scare tacking anybody. I'm just stating that there was 13 more, and they are all 60 plus. Now, I don't know why all the younger generations, any healthy people out there with no underlying conditions need to be wearing these masks when everybody knows who is the most vulnerable. The vulnerable should be taking care of themselves. There are masks in place, and I have shown you numerous times, there are plenty of other masks that will help stop the virus, and not just a puny cloth piece of fabric that does not stop anything but droplets. And then if it is droplets that these masks are so-called stopping, then one person that is concerned that the droplets can't go through the person that's wearing them. So I don't know why two people need to wear it when one is sufficient. I believe COVID is
30
real.
second notice, Mayor.
I do not.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay. My last point is I'm aware of the COVID situation. I'm not thrilled with our current health department. I had an in-law that went in. He tested positive for COVID. They misdiagnosed him, and is extremely infuriating. He took the prescriptions for that. He was released and sent home free of COVID, but did not check him for anything else. And he ended up winding up with pneumonia and going back and spent twice as much time at the ER with pneumonia, and is now having to be supplied oxygen because they were more concerned with COVID than they were anything else.
Your time is up,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you. All righty. We're ready to go into the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, we don't have any speakers there. So would you please read the items on the consent agenda?
Your Honor, the items on the consent agendas are as follows. Approval of the Board of Aldermen minutes for the January 12th, 2021 regular meeting. Acknowledge receipt of Planning Commission minutes for the December 1st, 2020 regular meeting. Final reading of Bill number 5941, an ordinance approving the annexation of the property located at 287 Hunter Avenue, Branson, Missouri. Final reading of Bill number 5942, an ordinance approving the repeal of Plan Development PD-11-002, known as Branson View Cabins, and a zoning change to mixed use MU for the property located 1901 Shepherd of the Hills Expressway, Branson, Missouri. Final reading of Bill number 5943, an ordinance accepting the proposal of Christian Action Ministries for the provision of services to provide temporary public assistance and authorize the mayor to execute the contract. Final reading of Bill number 5944, an ordinance accepting the proposal of Taney Hills Library for the provision of services to provide temporary public assistance and authorize the mayor to execute the contract. Final reading of Bill number 5945, an ordinance accepting the proposal of the Salvation Army for the provision of services to provide temporary public assistance and authorize the mayor to execute the contract. Final reading of Bill number 5946, an ordinance approving payment of incentive fees to SMG Branson Convention Center's Management Company in accordance with the contract. Final reading of Bill number 5947, an ordinance approving the intergovernmental agreement with Taney County for the provision of recycling center equipment and operation of recycling center, and authorize the mayor to execute the contract. Your Honor, that concludes the reading of the consent agenda.
You've heard the consent agenda. Typically, we have here, and I don't see it on my agenda right now, but let's seek a motion to open the floor. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So
So moved.
moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, all right. Is there anyone who wishes to bring anything down from the consent agenda? Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, will you now provide a roll call vote on the consent agenda?
King,
Approve.
Whitus,
Approve.
Simmons,
Approved.
Gaines,
Approved.
Milton,
Approved.
C.
Yes.
Your Honor, the result of the vote is 6-0. It passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're ready to move into the regular agenda, item number 10. Madam Clerk, would you please provide an introduction for this item?
Your Honor, this is a resolution accepting grant funding from the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Blueprint for Safer Roadways Program.
Okay. We'll have a staff report now from Jeff Matthews, and there's Jeff.
Yes, sir. Mayor and members of the board, this is a resolution seeking to accept grant funds from the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission Blueprint for Safer Roadways. Branson Police Department has been awarded a $5,000 grant to purchase 2 handheld speed measuring devices, and this resolution authorizes us to accept that grant and secure that equipment so that we can run speed measuring, those speed measuring devices throughout the city. We recommend approval.
Thank you, Chief Matthews. Do I have a motion of adopting this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all right. Any aldermen have any comments or questions?
It's probably the easiest approval I've ever been a part of.
Okay. Mr. Milton.
Chief Matthews, what are these devices?
We'd say they're radar, but we don't use radar anymore. It's a mixture of, it's a radar device, but it uses a laser technology to measure speed.
Okay, for speeding. Okay, thank
Right.
you.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk, would you please provide a roll call?
King,
Approve.
Whitus,
Approved.
Simmons,
Approved.
Gaines,
Yes.
Milton,
Yes.
C.
Yes.
Your Honor, the vote is 6-0. It passes.
Thank you. Ready to move to item number 11. Madam Clerk, would you please provide an introduction for this item?
Your Honor, this is a public hearing and first reading of Bill number 5948, an ordinance approving annexation of the property located at 189 Friendly Hills Drive, Branson, Missouri.
I will now open this public hearing. Begin with a staff report from Joel Hornickel.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of the board. This is an annexation for a property on the southwest portion of Branson. It's roughly just under an acre and a half, and it abuts the Chateau Mountain and Chateau Cove development. So this is part of the Friendly Hills subdivision, again, just west of State Highway 265. The owner of the property has requested to connect to sewer, and because they're contiguous, they have also requested annexation. And staff has reviewed it and obviously determined it is contiguous, as you can see here on the vicinity map, and that sewer is available and there will be minimal impact created from the annexation. So therefore, staff recommends approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. I would now open the floor for any questions from our aldermen.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Joel, could we put that back up? Is that an existing facility in a house there that's already hooked up to septic? Am I right on that?
Yeah, so let me pull it right back up here. There we go. So yes, you can see there is an existing residence that was built in 1996 there on Friendly Hills Drive, single family
Hey.
residence.
Are they hooked into our water and sewer now, or are they on septic?
They're on septic looking to connect to sewer.
My question would be the obvious. We're gonna require them to dig that thing up in those lateral lines so they're not used?
I don't know the details of the extent of what needs to be removed in order to hook to our sewer system, but we can check into that and I can provide an update to you all.
I would greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely.
And Joel, how long of a sewer line are we gonna have to run to service this?
Well, you can see actually on the vicinity map here on your screen, hopefully there's a green line that comes in from the bottom and angles up to the right. So that is the existing sewer line that was extended as part of the Chateau Cove development. So they've reached an agreement with the owner of the property in between their property and the end of that line to be able to connect. So actually the city will not have to do any of the extension.
Very nice, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me ask a question, follow up, because Larry asked a real good question there. Is there an easement through there that the city's gonna get?
So I believe these are all considered private lines. So
Okay.
it's up to the owners of the property to maintain them, not the city.
Hey, Joel, it's Julia. I read that they are interested in this being a nightly rental in the future. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is. We've been talking with them and that is their desire. So we take that into consideration when we zone the property, which will be an item coming to you all at your next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the alderman? This public hearing is now closed. You've heard the first reading of bill number 5948. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So move.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second, I guess.
All right. Any additional discussion?
Bob, you're on mute.
Off mute. There, now can you hear me?
Yes.
This, two lots away from this, we took into the city and then they wanted it zoned in something that we didn't think was appropriate. Now, are we doing the same thing here again? Are we giving these people the idea that they can definitely do nightly rental here before that zoning hearing has taken place?
So Alderman Simmons, nightly rental is an allowed use under the agricultural zoning. So even though their requests, particularly the properties to the north of this one, the 121 Linehart, when the zoning request was denied, it reverted to agricultural zoning. And again, that zoning designation does allow nightly rentals. So we are working with the property owner of this property at the 187 Friendly Hills Drive on the zoning. And at this point, we are going to be presenting a high density residential zoning, which was similar to what was denied in the past as a starting point. And again, if it's denied, then it would revert back to agriculture and that would allow nightly rental for the property owner.
But that's nightly rental on the existing property, right? In other words, they can't build 6 more cabins on that same property with that building.
Correct. Any development of those properties would have to conform with the standards of the agricultural district.
Okay.
So right
Thank
now they have one property, one house on that lot. And that's
Right. That's correct. And the agricultural district does allow a single family home.
Okay.
Any additional questions? Madam Clerk, will you provide a roll call vote?
King,
Approve.
Whitus,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Skanes,
Yes.
Milton,
Yes.
C.
Yes.
The vote is 6-0 and it passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ready to move on to item number 12, a first reading of a bill. Madam Clerk, would you please provide the introduction for this item?
Your Honor, this is the first reading of bill number 5949, an ordinance approving low-density residential LDR zoning for the property located at 287 Hunter Avenue, Branson, Missouri.
All right. Begin with a staff report from Joe Hornickel.
Mayor, members of the board, we've got a vicinity map here up for the next item at 287 Hunter Avenue for a zoning request for low density residential. This property is roughly in size of about a 1/4 acre. The applicant is looking to build a single family home within the property. They have already requested a land disturbance and building permit to do so. One thing we take under consideration anytime we look at zoning is what are the surrounding properties and what district is it most compliant with. And in this case, it would be low density residential, as you can see from the surrounding properties that are colored in the yellow. So therefore, that's what we are recommending, as well as the Planning Commission, which recommended approval of this at their January meeting. Happy to answer any questions.
All right. Do the aldermen have any questions?
Yes, sir. Joel, am I right on this? This was the last one from that last map. This was the sole survivor of that. There was no action on this previously?
So there was annexation that you all just approved in the consent agenda tonight. And then this will be to zone the property.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions? Joel, from my standpoint, the gray piece of property to the left, what does that signify?
So when it's washed out or kind of gray toned out like that, that shows that it's outside the city limits. So this property at 287 prior to this evening was an island, as well as that property just to the west. So these are areas we're trying to clean up is the islands, and we're happy to do so with one of these.
Great. Thank you. Any additional questions? Madam Clerk, will you now provide a roll call vote?
Your Honor, we don't have a motion on this, or a. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped right over it. All right. You've heard the first reading of bill number 5949. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And we got the discussion before all of that. So are you now ready to call a roll call vote?
Yes. King,
Approved.
Whitus,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
Milton,
Yes.
C.
Yes.
Your Honor, the vote is 6-0 and it passes.
Well, thank you, Madam Clerk. The part of the difficulty of this type of meeting is I can't look over at Lisa and she give me that look like I've left something out. And so I apologize, but I'll try to do better. Now we're ready for item number 13, a first reading of bill number 5950. Madam Clerk, would you please provide the introduction?
Your Honor, this is the first reading of bill number 5950, an ordinance approving the repeal of ordinance 2005-012 and a vacation of a portion of the alley connecting 3rd Street and 4th Street within Block 17, Branson Subdivision, Branson, Missouri.
Okay. Begin with the staff report from Joe Hornickel.
Mayor, members of the board, just like we mentioned on the previous item, how we're trying to clean up mistakes or errors from the past and fill in islands. This will chalk up as an error or mistake from the past. This was a vacation of an alleyway that you can see here between 3rd and 4th Street that was actually requested and approved by the Board of Aldermen back in 2005. It was then taken to the county for recording. However, due to an error in the legal description, it was never recorded. It was uncovered this year, or actually just at the end of 2020, that all the error entailed was instead of block 7, it listed block 17. And so that simple error caused this to not be dealt with properly. And so we're bringing it back through the process. The Planning Commission has reviewed it at their January meeting and recommends approval, and we do as well. Happy to answer any questions.
You've heard the first reading of bill number 5950. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any alderman wishing to speak to this matter?
Mr. Mayor, from this drawing, it looks like this encompasses a building. Is that it? That drawing in error, Joel?
Well, Well, anytime we look at aerials and property lines draped over them, we always let people know there's a margin of error of anywhere from 2, 3, or even 4 feet. So they don't line up perfectly. However, though, we do believe that this vacation was originally requested so that the front of the Taney Hills Library could be expanded into that space. And they thought back in 2005 that they had accomplished the vacation successfully. However, now, because it wasn't, they have a non-conforming building that sits over a public alleyway. So again, that's why we're bringing it back through the process, trying to get it cleaned up so that they can have a free and clear title on the Taney Hills Library.
Is this a major league oops or a minor league oops?
It was just a number that was transcribed incorrectly, and when they did so, they did it throughout the entire documentation. So it wasn't just a Scribner's error that we could point to and correct it. It's best to take it all the way through, and the city clerk's guidance on this helps us to get it there.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk, would you please provide a roll call vote?
King,
Approve.
Whitus,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
Milton,
Yes.
C.
Yes.
Your Honor, the result of the vote is 6-0 and it passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ready to move on to item 14. Madam Clerk, would you please provide the introduction for this item?
Your Honor, this is the first reading of Bill number 5951, an ordinance amending section 2-362 of the Branson Municipal Code pertaining to the sale and disposition of both personal and real property.
Begin with a staff report from Chris Lebeck.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. This is, like Joel alluded to in the previous item, another cleanup effort by the city. Over the past couple of years with disposition of, we'll say personal property, we've run into some challenges where we've had to bring some, what I would call small items before the board so that we could get permission to transfer them. Examples would be tasers or when PD cleans out the property room. We also have challenges with regards to resolving what to do with inoperable property, or things like, one example is we have extra notebooks or extra file folders or extra paper that no other city department wants to claim. How do we go about disposing of that? So we looked at our city code and realized there were some opportunities for some cleanup here to allow our purchasing agent and finance to make decisions what to do with those pieces of property. Now, one concern with that is we wanted to build into the ordinance dual control. So the idea here is that the purchasing agent can decide what to do with inoperable property or small items, and then providing the city administrator sign off approval. So we have that dual control with regards to how to transfer that property. So we believe this is going to be a much more efficient process for our smaller items that are don't meet that monetary threshold, and staff recommends approval. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
You've heard the first reading of Bill number 5951. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So moved.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any alderman wish to speak to this?
Chris, this is Julia. I was just going to ask for clarity on who the purchasing agent is. If you could just help me understand that.
That's a great question, Alderwoman King. The purchasing agent is a person set by city code, and they exist in the finance department. It's Ryan Hill is our current purchasing agent. So whenever you see a contract come before the board that meets a certain monetary threshold, it's our purchasing agent who compiles those, puts those out to bid, and does all the attendant paperwork to manage city property and manage those bids. So we felt that was probably the best place for this task to live, since they're already knee deep in it.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry, Chris, is this, are we auctioning these items? Are we donating them to charities? What are we doing with these items?
Well, the ordinance provides a couple different opportunities. The first is some of these items we can, through our bidding process, donate them to charities. Some of these items can be auctioned off But again, it gives the purchase agency agent the opportunity to look at the item, look at what we have and say, hey, what's going to be the best vehicle for disposing this? Is this something that can benefit the public good by donating it to a local charity? Or is this something that we can transfer to another agency, such as, if you recall back, I think it was last year or the year before, we had a bunch of inoperable body cams, old Motorola body cams, and we had to bring those before the board to transfer them to another agency because they just wanted the parts. Well, that seems like something that, again, we could just do without having to involve the board if we have that dual control in place where the purchasing agent can identify the need and then the city administrator can sign off on it. So again, the code amendment as written in the ordinance provides some flexibility there for many different ways to dispose of this property. But again, that's determined by our purchasing agent who also writes the bids.
So the purchasing agent will be deciding if we're going to be donating or auctioning them?
Ultimately, the city administrator will make that final call. That's the dual control built into the ordinance. So, but the purchasing agent will make the recommendation, then it would go to city admin to finalize that. And then on the front end of that, ultimately the department. I keep picking on Chief Matthews and his department, but the Motorola body cam is a best example. We had these parts. We had other agencies that said, hey, we'd like those parts. Well, he can make that recommendation with this ordinance to the purchasing agent to, hey, we want to dispose of this way. Purchasing agent facilitates that, and then the city administrator finalizes that because the board, if the board does decide to approve this, has given that authority to the city administrator to do so.
Hey, look, Stan put his hand up.
I did. Thank you very much. What I wanted to say is, yes, I am strongly in favor of if we've got a local charity that needs something. And unfortunately, I'm going to kind of add on to what Chris said here. A lot of the things we're talking about really have no value worth anything. My favorite one that kind of actually brought this to fruition was we had a barrel, and in this barrel were broken hammers and broken rakes, and we couldn't get rid of it without the board voting to get rid of it, to approve it. And it was, they had saved this stuff for years because it's not worth anything and kept piling up. So we're trying to clean things up, but no, I guarantee, I absolutely believe that our first, in my mind, the first thing we should do with anything is if we have an organization, a charitable organization around here that could actually get some worth out of what we have, that it should go to them. And then like this body camera issue, if I recall correctly, all of those body cameras put together, once we put them in a bucket, were worth on average $60. And, you know, obviously they weren't going to be of any use to a charity, but they were of great use to this smaller sheriff's department that we donated them to.
That makes sense. Thank you.
I also saw in the amendment, this would apply for property value of $1,500 or less. So anything valued above $1,500 would still come before the board.
Comes back to the board, absolutely.
Yeah, again, that threshold, Alderwoman, that's the threshold that was in the ordinance before. We didn't change that in any way.
Thank you. And also, you know, from an auditing standpoint, our auditing firm reviews the purchasing agent's department. So there's also another factor there. So at this point in time, are we ready to vote? Please vote. Have a roll call.
King,
Approve.
Whitus,
Yes.
Simmons,
Approve.
Gaines,
Yes.
Milton,
Yes.
C.
Yes.
The vote is 6-0 and it passes.
Thank you. We're ready to move on to item number 15. Madam Clerk, would you please provide the introduction for this item?
Your Honor, this is the first reading of Bill number 5952, an ordinance amending the adopted 2021 budget for the City of Branson to adjust monies for the Capital Project Fund.
Okay, we have a staff report from Jamie Roush.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. This is a budget amendment for the capital fund to adjust monies for the CID 76 Board of Directors voted on October 14th to pass a resolution in favor of paying for the design costs for the segment 3 for the 76 design. That's in the amount of $203,335. What that will do, it'll be a transfer into the capital fund. And then we also are accounting for, in this budget amendment, the expense going out. Staff recommends approval of this budget amendment.
Okay. You've heard the first reading of bill number 5952. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So
Approved.
moved.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All right. Any alderman wish to speak to this item?
Quick question, Mayor. Always has to meet the necessary and reasonable clause. Jamie, so what you're saying through this whole process, the process was necessary. It had to go through this process. This is a reasonable request of the board, and it's consistent with what we have done in the past on projects such as this. There's been no deviations at all.
No, sir, you're correct. This was the 76 Board of Directors. Was their wish to get those power lines underground, and it's the first step to help with the design cost for that. They have the money and they elected to do so. So that's why we're here to make sure that the capital project funds get adjusted properly.
And their board met and voted and referred it on over to us. I just think that everybody needs to know the systems and processes. That's all.
October 14th, 2020 is when they approved that resolution. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments? Madam Clerk, would you please provide a roll call vote?
King,
Approved.
Whitus,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
Milton,
Yes.
C.
Yes.
The vote is 6-0 and it passes.
Thank you. Ready to move to item number 16, a first reading of a bill number 5953. Madam Clerk, would you please provide the introduction for this item?
Your Honor, this is the first reading of bill number 5953, an ordinance approving the contract with White River Valley Electric Cooperative for relocation costs of telecommunication facilities relating to West 76 Country Boulevard Improvements Project and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract.
Begin with a staff report from Keith Francis. This staff
Mayor,
report,
members of the board,
excuse me, Keith, just a moment. This staff report will reply to the next three, 16, 17, and 18. Thank you, Keith.
that's correct. Mayor, members of the board, this is for the staff report for the next three, as the mayor just mentioned. West 76 Country Boulevard Improvements Project will require all affected utility companies to relocate or bury their respective overhead power lines. As the project moves forward, the utility companies will be incurring costs to implement the utility relocations, and these companies need assurances that the city will reimburse these expenses. White River Valley Electric has submitted a utility agreement for the engineering and design phase of the work for the relocation of utilities in and along the city's streets and right-of-way on West 76 Country Boulevard corridor between stations 159 plus 00 and station 189 plus 00, or approximately from Presley's Theater to the Ferris wheel property. And this is segment 3 of the Highway 76 improvements we're just talking about here. This utility agreement is in the amount of $173,507.84. Detailed analysis of the 76 Entertainment Community Improvement District 76 ECID Board of Directors met on October 14th, 2020 to discuss the resolution approving paying for the design costs incurred by the city related to the undergrounding of the utilities in segment 3 of West 76 Country Boulevard. The Board of Directors recommended approval of the resolution and the motion passed unanimously. On October 14th, 2020, the Board of Directors approved the resolution paying for the design costs of utility companies relating to the underground utilities in the amount of $203,335.18. A budget amendment was presented at this meeting, amending the adopted 2021 budget for the city of Branson to adjust monies for the capital projects fund in the amount of $203,335.18. These funds will be used for the payments to the utility companies for the engineering and design costs only incurred by the various utility companies to relocate the utility lines on segment 3 of West 76 Country Boulevard. The staff report includes information for the next two agenda items. CenturyLink has submitted a special construction proposal for engineering costs only for the design and West 76th Country Boulevard undergrounding Phase 1A or Segment 3 near the junction of 165 and West 76th Country Boulevard, running approximately from Presley's to the Ferris wheel in the amount of $10,807. Suddenlink has submitted a utility construction request and contract for the design cost of Segment 3 undergrounding in the amount of $1468.50. Staff recommends approval and be glad to answer any questions.
Keith, please, you'll be available for the next two items after this one. All right, you've heard the
Yes,
first
sir.
reading of bill number 5953. Do I have a motion approving the bill?
So move.
Second.
Is there a second? And a second?
Second.
All right. All right, any alderman wishing to speak to this matter?
Just to reiterate, Mr. Mayor, to get back at it with Keith, that first section there of 15 is $173,507 and some odd cents. Is that correct, buddy?
Yes, sir. That's for
Thank you.
White River's portion.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Keith, I had a question. Doing the math, after White River, eventually CenturyLink, Suddenlink, and then eventually Seabridge, it looks like there's about 16 grand left over. Are there any other utility companies that are not represented in today's report that we're going to go through?
No, those numbers should add up to 203, 335, 18. Let's see. 73, 50, 784, 1,000, 183.
You're
You're
talking about
exactly right. There must be a
3,000.
calculation error there.
Yeah.
Let me pull
Wasn't
my
sure if maybe
spreadsheet.
there would be another utility company that we saw a bid on in the future, or if we just had a little bit of a surplus here.
No, CenturyLink there should be a correction there. CenturyLink should be in the amount of $17,551.84. I apologize for that.
There it is. Nope, that's fine.
Does that get it?
Balancing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That balance is what we're talking about now, finally.
Pardon
Keith, are
me,
you
Mr.
comfortable with a balance?
Yes, it should add to 203, 335, 18. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Keith, where are these funds coming from?
They will be coming from the SID funds, and Jamie can chime in on that if she'd like to. She could probably explain it better than I could, but it comes out of the SID proceeds.
Okay.
Tax dollars.
Keith is correct. That has to do with the budget amendment that we just did right before this item. 76 approved the 203,000. What that's going to be is a transfer from the CID funds into the capital funds. And then we're going to expend that money out of the capital fund. So it'll be a wash to the capital fund because we're going to get it from 76 CID.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
Keith, I got a quick question. Was any of this design and engineering work done prior to October 2020? Or was this started after the approval back in 2020?
I think some of them may have moved forward with a little bit of the design work. As far as what percentage of it was done, I could not answer that, Alderman.
I got you. I didn't know if there was any action prior to October 2020.
I really can't answer that question, honestly. I can check into it and see and get back with you all.
Yeah, I did. I was just wondering that the time lag and everything, if it's a sort of like a do-over or they actually started to design and engineer back in 2020.
Personally, I think some of them probably did start a little bit, but I can't say 100% for that.
Gotcha.
I think Stan has his hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to help with the somewhat of the answer there. When we first started this, the companies were ready to go, so to speak. They had not really done any of the actual design work that we're talking about, but they were willing to be part of it. There was some confusion regarding the actual undergrounding, and that caused them to pause. And something that when we went back to them to try this ready to go again and start it up, that's when they said, well, we're more than happy to, but we're going to have to insist upon payment up front prior to doing any more, so we can make sure that we're all on the same playing field. So even if they did, they obviously hadn't been paid for it. So that's where it is now. This is a joint project. The CID on 76 owes us some funds. This is part of our responsibility is getting the utilities undergrounded that in the cooperative agreement. And so it's just at a perfect time where we definitely want to get moving, because it's what we are hoping for our community is to get this done. And the CID had the funds sitting in the bank. And so it's a win-win kind of for both sides.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just wondered if they had gone to the lengths of doing that design and engineering and then basically shelved it and started from scratch. So it doesn't sound like they got too deep into it.
Not too far at all.
Okay, thanks, Dan. And Keith.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
A quick question for Keith. Are these hard and fast numbers, Keith? Can they come back and ask for a modification from the SID, or are these set in stone, literally? Bad pun, I know.
They could possibly come back and ask for more, but from what all the times we have discussed with them, they're pretty confident in these design numbers.
Thank you.
For some reason, every once in a while, they run into more rock than they expect to. I don't know how that happens.
That's the bad pun made in stone,
All right. Madam Clerk, would you please provide a roll call vote?
King,
Approve.
Whitus,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Skanes,
Yes.
Milton,
Yes.
C.
Yes.
The vote is 6-0 and it passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ready to move to item number 17, a first reading of bill number 5954. Madam Clerk, would you please provide the introduction for this item?
Your Honor, this is the first reading of bill number 5954, an ordinance approving the contract with Seabridge Acquisition LP DBA centurylink Communications for relocation costs of telecommunication facilities relating to the West 76 Country Boulevard Improvements Project, and authorize the mayor to execute the contract.
Okay. All right, you've heard the first reading of bill number 5954. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So moved.
Second.
There's a second. All right. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please provide a roll call vote?
King,
Approve.
Whitus,
Yes.
Simmons,
Approved.
Skanes,
Yes.
Milton,
Yes.
C.
Yes.
The vote is 6-0 and it passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 18, a first reading of bill number 5955. Madam Clerk, please provide the introduction for this item.
Your Honor, this is the first reading of bill number 5955, an ordinance approving the contract with CenturyLink for relocation costs of CenturyLink telecommunication facilities relating to the West 76 Country Boulevard Improvements Project, and authorize the mayor to execute the contract.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. You've heard the first reading of bill number 5955. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So moved.
Second.
Second, then made. Any discussion? This is the third leg of this stool. So, Madam Clerk, please provide the roll call vote.
King,
Approve.
Whitus,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
Milton,
Yes.
C.
Yes.
The vote is 6-0 and it passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're ready to move on the agenda to item number 19, first reading bill number 5956.
Your Honor, this is the first reading of bill number 5956, an ordinance accepting the proposal of Sumner 1 for copier hardware lease and authorize the mayor to execute the contract.
Here's staff report from Chad Foster. Chad?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the board. The contract before you is to lease copier and printer hardware for the city. Proposals were accepted in response to bid 02581 to select a vendor to provide managed print services for the city's printer fleet. As As part of that process and vendor selection, 2 contracts were necessary to provide the best solution. One for the lease of the hardware equipment and one for the services to provide management, support, parts, and supplies for that hardware. The contract before you now is for the lease of the hardware equipment, as I'd said. The city received 7 qualified bids. Each vendor response contained many details and options which staff evaluated to calculate the most cost-effective vendor solution. And after review, staff recommends award of bid to the low bidder, Sumner One, as the most cost-effective and comprehensive solution. The specific agreement is to lease, this specific agreement, is to lease new printer hardware and includes 5 Carosia MFP printers and 12 Carosia large output copiers with necessary accessories. The agreement is a 3-year term, and at the end of the agreement, the city will own the equipment outright. A second agreement is next item on the agenda, which facilitates the maintenance, support, and toner supplies of all the printer fleet. The monthly cost for this contract is $1,959.21. The total not to exceed for the 3-year term is $70,531.56. Funds for the first year are within the 2021 budget appropriations. Staff recommends approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Chad, thank you. You have heard the first reading of bill number 5956. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion from Alderman? Any questions for Chad?
Chad, I got a quick one. Will they house like shelf stock or toner here locally where staff can replace those consumables, or do they have to run down every time?
No, Sumner One, they were previously corporate business systems. And so we've actually been with them for quite some time, and we've got this process worked out pretty well. I mean, there are a few exceptions here and there where toner runs out, but it's typically we try to set a system up that notifies Sumner One prior to the toner running out so that they're proactively sending that. Now I'm here to tell you it doesn't always work perfectly. And
Right.
so what often happens is the departments are monitoring that and asking for that. We also keep some extra toner up here in IT
Right.
just to make sure that everybody has what they need, but it works pretty well.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure if the maintenance agreement was like all inclusive and drive time and techs and.
It absolutely is. Yep.
Okay.
It's break fix, drive time, it's all included. And they've got a pretty impressive system up there where they're always monitoring where their techs are at on a map. So you're getting the closest one to you, and they can always see that when they dispatch. And so it works very well.
Yeah, I know the techs don't like that, but I'm sure the boss does.
I'm sure.
All right, thanks, Chad.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from Alderman or comments? Madam Clerk, would you please provide a roll call vote?
King,
Approved.
Whitus,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
Milton,
Yes.
C.
Yes.
The vote is 6-0 and it passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ready to move to the next item? Hang on just a second. There we go. Item number 20. Madam Clerk, would you please provide the introduction for the first reading of bill number 5957?
Your Honor, this is the first reading of bill number 5957, an ordinance accepting the proposal of Sumner One for managed print services and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract.
I have a staff report from Chad Foster.
Mayor, members of the board. This contract is for the managed print services for the city. So it's to what we spoke about, essentially allow them to manage the fleet for us and provide all the support, print supplies, and toner. Proposals were accepted in response to the same bid mentioned previously. Staff recommends award of bidder to Sumner One as the most cost-effective and, again, comprehensive managed print solution. The estimated annual cost is $16,000. However, the agreement includes a not to exceed amount of $20,000 annually to account for fluctuations in print volume, which does happen on occasion. This contract is 1 year with the option to renew for up to 2 additional 1-year terms. funds are in the 2021 budget appropriations. I'd also point out that based on our previous contract, we're going to realize a little over $450 a month savings. So around $5,500 annually is what we estimate. So that's always good news, particularly in this environment. Staff recommends approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Chad. You've heard the first reading of bill number 5957. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Second. Those were quick. Any discussion items on this?
Good job, Chad.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, would you now provide a roll call vote?
King,
Approve.
Whitus,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes, ma'am.
Milton,
Yep.
C.
Yes.
The vote is 6-0 and it passes.
Thank you very much. Now move toward the end of the agenda and reports from individual aldermen. Begin with Alderman King.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to take this moment to formally welcome Jason Outman, our new president of our chamber and CVB. Got to speak with him last week, thought he had some wonderful ideas, and I think he's a great addition to our community. And on a side note, took some personal time out to go check out the aquarium. It's awesome. It exceeded my expectations, and if you haven't been yet, I highly recommend it. That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you. Alderman Whitus.
Yeah, I just want to take this moment to just ask our citizens to, this is a great opportunity. We're at the beginning of the year, so it's a great opportunity to support some of our local businesses. As Julia said, the aquarium is a great place. We've got several other new attractions that this is a great time to check them out. Lots of restaurants still in business and lots of other things going on. So just get out and support our local businesses.
Buy local. Thank you. Alderman Simmons.
Thank you. Along that same line, last weekend, I waited 40 minutes to get into a restroom, to a restaurant to eat. And so I think some of the restaurants are doing pretty good, and it was certainly warranted. They were that busy, and they were that busy a couple of 3 weeks ago when I was in there too. So we do still have people here in January, and that's wonderful. I'd also like to just comment on so many people signing up for these various seats this year, and I think that's really wonderful. That's the way government's supposed to work. We're supposed to get a broad section of people that are signing and choices for the people that are going to vote. So really, I think we're all happy to see that and be an interesting election. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Alderman Gaines.
Yes, sir. I have two items, and I'm going to deviate just a little bit on what's been discussed. And I'm concerned about some of the disparaging remarks that have been made about our police department and their role and what they do in the community. We owe a lot to these young men and young women, and some older one, if I see the chief in there somewhere, for the work that they do. We need to be showing them on an ongoing basis that we support them, and the reports that they give us are true and accurate. To make just unsubstantiated comments that they're inflating these these numbers and these reports. It's just beyond intelligent comprehension. I just want to say I support them, and I think every member of this board and the mayor supports our police and fire and guys, what they do out there. I think they do a wonderful job, and I just had to say that. That was on my heart. Second item is that I wanted to discuss what we've been working on for a very long period of time. And some of you have heard about the Branson Academy for the Advancement of Music and Theater and the work that they have been doing. We've had discussion, I know, amongst ourselves. They filed for 501c6 status. I think that it shows the work that we have done with them and with the CVB and the tourism district. This board would never be perceived as being enemies of theaters and live entertainment venues. What they are doing is in pretty much in line with what I thought we all thought they should do, is that theaters and live entertainment should be in charge of their own activities, and it shouldn't be a governmental agency telling them what to do or one formed. I think that they're doing a pretty remarkable job. And they're smart people. and they're in the business of entertainment. They're trying to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, and they're working very hard. I think we can support them either emotionally or with funds out of the tourism fund, possibly in the future. We haven't seen anything, but I think it's real important that we show a dedication back towards the theaters, that we care what happens to them. I applaud their initiative and the actions they've taken to strengthen their industry. What they have done is they're trying to, and I've got a long statement here, and I don't want it to go on as long as my buddy, Mr. Milton, does sometime. Got to pick on him just a little bit. It was formed to fulfill the sound diplomacy recommendations, as well as those through the industry, through curation and education. They're working through experience and research, I think, which is real important. They need to be data driven. They're going to be working to produce 150,000 copies, full-size magazine and our Branson show guide. They've worked with the district marketing group and the tourism district for distribution. They're showing that they've got skin in the game, and they're working hard at it. They're going to be working in the area of economic development, workforce development, diversification of the product, innovation and product and production values and infrastructure, and the propagation of best practices within our industry. I have been very impressed with what these people have been doing. They've literally grabbed the bull by the horns through this review that the CVB and the tourism district paid for. And I think it shows remarkable courage on their behalf. And I hope that we as a board would stand behind their efforts. And that's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Bill. Alderman Milton.
I want to echo what Bill said. I think that's a great organization, and I do think that the way they're forming it, I would love to see them get some support or a lot of support from the city also. I'd also like to reiterate what I said at the last Board of Aldermen meeting. This is our third meeting now, Mayor, where we've had one speaker at each meeting. And I don't know what the solution is. Obviously, we would think something was odd if we had 3 alderman meetings at City Hall and there was only one person at each meeting. So I don't know if we can get the word out or how to let the community know that even though we're having online meetings, that there is a vehicle for them to participate. I have to believe that there are citizens out there that would like to be sharing their opinions during these meetings, but maybe just don't know how, or I don't know if we need to put out another press release or some way to communicate that we do want them involved with these meetings.
Thank you. I do know after your last comments, last meeting, that there's a lot of information that went out making people aware of the website. You'd think, obviously, you make things available and it's fairly easy to go through the process, that you'd get some additional input. But, at this point in time, that's what we're getting. So I appreciate your comments. I would encourage each individual alderman in your own wards is to encourage people. Obviously, when someone asks you about it or suggests something, they ask them to get involved. And so the communication process begins a lot with us, I think, as the city leaders, to make sure we communicate to the people that are directly under our authority. So I appreciate that. Alderman C.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better than Larry did. I mean, I don't want the citizens to think that this is a mechanism to duck them, making it difficult for them to come in and speak their mind. So well said, Larry, there. And Julia, we had a great informal meeting on Friday with me and Bill and Larry with Jason. I like him. I think he's going to do good. There was a lot of more laughing and cutting up than there was talking business, but that was what it's intended for. So, and following up on Bill and the crime statistics, and I will temper my comments here, but it is infuriating to see people respond to what is supposed to be, I don't want to call it PR, but good news that we distribute to our PR department. And sometimes I just think some things are better left unsaid. You throw that stuff out and that's a response that you get. It's I think it's ridiculous, but that's just my comment.
Thank you, Alderman C. Administrator Dobbins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just 4 things now. First, vaccinations started in our county. They're going a little slow, in my personal opinion, but they're started, which is a great step forward for the county. The health department is working hard to get everybody vaccinated that's in the high critical category at first, and then move into the rest of the community. There is ongoing communication and talks with the state on maybe some assistance with ramping up our vaccination process. Hopefully that will occur sooner than later. Next, just to kind of work on some of the conversation tonight at our high point. Well, right now we have 28 people that are online watching the meeting. I would assume that those that are watching didn't have anything to comment on. I do know that several of them, of course, will be directors. At the dial in and dial out, probably total for tonight has been 50-ish around. So we do have people watching us, which is good. And secondly, what I would like to say to let you all know is that if we can get the vaccinations going, the masks definitely are part of the program to keep things working so we can control this issue and ultimately kill it. But with a little luck, I think we'll be able to see people coming back to the council chambers, hopefully in March. That's what I'm shooting for. That's my goal. Because I do think it's important to have the communication and have the opportunity to actually be in the same room together. And last but not least, for all of those out there who know me well will understand this, go Chiefs.
All righty, thank you, Administrator Dobbins. Just a few quick comments. This election coming up is not just to elect people to office. We have a very important election for the tourism tax, renewal of the tourism tax. And, you kind of take things for granted once in a while, but when you lose approximately 35% of your income from that basis, you see it and understand it and recognize it within the city. So we've got to encourage folks to see how valuable it is for people in the small business to be able to have jobs. There have to be people coming here. There have to be people who want to come here. And so I encourage us all to really support the tourism tax and to encourage people to get out and vote. I hope that we'll seek to understand and help people understand that we are a class 4 city, statute-based. We're a city manager chosen type form government, and we follow state law. We are not at the end of COVID. No one has a crystal ball to tell us when it's going to be at the end. But we know that things are changing, and we can see and understand that there's things going on that may let us open up quicker. As soon as we are able to get there, this thing comes off. This is, as I've shared with you, my COVID goatee, and I hope it doesn't get real long. We've got vaccines at the end as part of the tunnel site, so we can get that done. I'd encourage each one of us to communicate to folks. I think you bring up points about encouraging people. I think this technology is still not a real comfortable thing for people to do. And so that's part of that process. And then to Bill's comments about hearing comments on crime, the interesting thing is that crime statistics are based on population. And the population of Branson is whatever it's going to be as soon as the census comes in, 12,000 or whatever. But we have a whole bunch of folks come visit us. So anything that happens when those folks come goes into our statistics. So it makes our statistics look way out of whack because it's based on our base population. And so I'd encourage people to try to understand that we're a city of 13,000, but when we got 70 or 80,000 people in our community, that makes us a lot different from if you're looking at crime statistics. This has been a short meeting. I thank you all for doing your homework and getting involved and making good questions, good comments. Do I have a motion to adjourn the Board of Aldermen's meeting?
So moved.
There's a
Second.
motion to adjourn.
Third.
There's Madam Clerk, would you please provide a roll call vote?
King,
Approve.
Whitus,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
Milton,
Yes.
C.
Affirmative.
We have a 6-0 vote and we're adjourned. Thank you.